Hey everyone, and welcome back to Fine Print. On today's episode, we will be discussing what would have happened if the Ottomans won World War I. Stay tuned to find out whether the once dominant Islamic Empire could have prevailed till much longer. The Ottoman Empire had been in power since approximately the year 1299 and controlled the Dar al-Islam premise for centuries to come, ruling over Central Eurasia and serving as a major crossroad for trade routes and Islamic pilgrimages. In 1493, the Ottomans conquered the Byzantine capital of Constantinople, beginning the powerful and almost uncontested rule of the Ottomans, ending the Middle Ages in Europe and introducing a period of prosperity. The Ottomans went on to conquer much of North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East, and in the 1500s, under Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottomans reached their peak, culturally, politically, and economically. They controlled major religious sites like Mecca, Medina, Jerusalem, Istanbul, as well as trade routes, and had a very effective government administration in place. They were an absolute monarchy ruled by the Sultan as the supreme ruler, with the Imperial Council, or the Divan, as his group of advisors. The Divan consists of the Grand Vizier, who is his top official, and the other viziers manage specialized fields in the government. The law was based off of Sharia, or the Islamic law. The Ottomans followed a devshirme system, where they recruited young Christian boys, converted them to Islam, and trained them to fight for their army. Although this often led to inhumane practices, it assisted the Ottomans greatly with their military strength. Elite janissaries also made up the core of the Ottoman army. The Ottomans collected a tax called jizya from non-Muslims living in Ottoman-controlled land in exchange for unwavering protection. However, this period of extended prosperity was limited for the Ottomans. Starting in the 1700s, the Ottoman Empire entered a period of steady decline, leading to their eventual collapse during the World War. The Ottomans lost the Balkans to increased nationalist uprisings and European intervention, and Egypt was taken by the British in 1882. North Africa was soon lost to Italy, and the 1912 Balkan Wars led to the Ottomans losing nearly all of their European stronghold. Secondly, because the Ottomans ruled over such a large landmass, there were various ethnicities and religions under their rule. This led to increased demands for independence and self-determination from the Greeks, Serbs, and Armenians, for example, and the Sultan struggled to maintain his centralized government, leading to an internally fragmenting empire. Provincial rulers, called pashas, gained power, further fragmenting the empire. Furthermore, as a result of the industrial revolutions in Europe, the Ottomans fell way behind the Europeans in terms of industry and economic production, and became dependent on Britain and France. A series of reforms did greet the Ottoman Empire, though, in the late 1800s and early 1900s that aimed to bring the empire back to its previous strength, namely the Tanzimat reforms and the Young Turk Revolution. The Tanzimat reforms were a series of reforms that attempted to modernize the Ottoman government, army, and bureaucracy to resemble Western structures. This effort failed, however, because of conservative Islamics, as they viewed this increased westernization as a big step away from traditional Sharia law and fundaments. The Young Turk Revolution took place in 1908 and aimed to restore the constitution and reform the political stature of the Ottoman Empire. However, this effort too failed. Internal divisions had reached a point where reform was unlikely to bring the empire back to a centralized system. In 1914, the Ottoman Empire joined Germany and Austria-Hungary in the Central Powers, hoping to reclaim lost territory from Britain and France, who made up the Allies along with Russia. Instead, they were met with devastating losses, both militaristically and economically, that virtually marked the end of the Ottoman Empire. First was the Gallipoli Campaign in 1915, which was a sea invasion by Britain to capture the Gallipoli Peninsula and Istanbul. Although the Ottomans successfully defended their land, the campaign cost them more money than they could afford spending. Furthermore, in 1915, the Ottoman government forcefully deported, tortured, and massacred up to 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children, accusing them of allying with the Russians, sparking outrage in the Armenian population and supporting communities, and leading to increased talks of independence. The Caucasus campaign against Russia further resulted in the loss of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia for the Ottoman Empire, and the Arab Revolt, supported by the British, led to increased Arab discontent in the Ottoman Empire. Soon, British forces had captured crucial cities like Baghdad, Jerusalem, and Damascus, and in 1918, the Ottomans officially surrendered with the Treaty of Severus in 1920 that dismantled the empire, splitting the once Ottoman territory amongst various countries. Between 1919 and 1923, in the Turkish War of Independence, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk led the Turkish people to independence, abolishing the Ottoman Sultanate in 1922. But what would have happened if the Ottoman Empire hadn't collapsed? What would have happened if the Ottoman Empire had emerged successful or even stronger than before after the First World War? Firstly, the Ottoman Caliphate under the Sultan would have continued to prosper under the Islamic law, which would have delayed nationalist independence movements like the one conducted by Ataturk. The empire might have further broadened its reach to Muslim populations in South Asia, the rest of the Middle East, and Africa, spreading their influence and the dream of achieving Dar al-Islam across Afro-Eurasia. Furthermore, the many Arab countries we know today, like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq, would have still been under Ottoman rule. Most importantly, the Balfour Declaration of 1917, which was when Britain announced its support for the creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, would have not been announced or followed through with, because the only reason Britain was able to do that was because they defeated the Ottomans. If the Ottomans had remained in power, Jewish migration to Palestine would have been reduced or even delayed, which would have heavily played out into the Israel-Palestine conflict that is still going on up to present day. Essential trade routes and regions such as the Suez region, Hajj routes, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf would have been economical hotspots, empowering the Ottoman economy and increasing competition with the West. Oil-rich regions in Iraq and Arabia would have further fueled competition and alliances with the West, namely the United States. The Ottoman Empire, leading up to the 2000s, might have even let in some mild Western reforms to keep up with the ever-changing technological world, and might have adopted more liberal policies to account for the various ethnicities that they governed. The Ottoman Empire was undoubtedly one of the most powerful empires in all of history. They governed from 1299 to 1922, ruling over 600 years through an Islamic code of law, bringing prosperity and innovations across the continent, while also being credited for one of the worst genocides in human history. Today, we explored an alternate course of events for the empire, one where their supreme reign had gone till much longer, possibly even present day. Until next time, keep following Fine Print, and go check out our old episodes to find something that interests you. On the next episode, we will be talking about what would have happened if India became a monarchy after independence. Keep following Fine Print and keep reading between the lines.